they stand on their own. Love will survive and keep it alive. Faithful come home. Echoes of time, pages of photographs, taking me back to the days when we loved and laughed. Now I see the strength that you needed when your guard was down. I'll be here waiting to call you again, but I know what you'll say. Only the faithful have hearts that are true. They wait out the rain for the sun to shine through. Only the faithful, they stand on their own. Love will survive, they keep it alive. Faithful come home. Time spent apart, can weaken the heart when life seems to lead us astray. No simple emotion can steal your devotion. I need you to show me the way. Oh, don't leave the faithful, they stand on their own. Love will survive and keep it alive till the faithful come home. Only the faithful have hearts that are true, and they wait out the rain for the sun to shine through. Only the faithful, they stand on their own. Love will survive, they keep it alive till the faithful come home. I walk alone with memories of the time we shared. I realize you were someone who cared. Now that you're gone, I'm haunted by the emptiness. I live with the pain of losing your love and your sweet caress. Only the faithful have hearts that are true. They wait through the rain for the sun to shine through. Lonely the faithful, they stand on their own. Love will survive and keep it alive. Faithful come home. Echoes of time, pages of photographs, taking me back to the days when we loved and laughed. Now I see the strength that you needed when your guard was down. I'll be here waiting to call you again, but I know what you'll say. Only the faithful have hearts that are true. They wait out the rain they wait out the rain for the sun to shine through. Lonely the faithful, they stand on their own. Love will survive, they keep it alive till the faithful come home. I walk alone with memories of the time we shared. I realize you were someone who cared. Now that you're gone, I'm haunted by the emptiness. I live with the pain of losing your love and your sweet caress. Only the faithful have hearts that are true. They wait through the rain for the sun to shine through. Lonely the faithful, they stand on their own. Love will survive and keep it alive. The faithful come home. Echoes of time, pages of photographs, taking me back to the days when we loved and laughed. Now I see the strength that you needed when your guard was down. I'll be here waiting to call you again, but I know what you'll say. Only the faithful have hearts that are true. They wait out the rain for the sun to shine through. Lonely the faithful, they stand on their own. Love will survive, they keep it alive. Faithful come home. Time spent apart can weaken the heart when life seems to lead us astray. No simple emotion can steal your devotion. I need you to show me the way. Oh, lonely the faithful, they stand on their own. Love will survive and keep it alive till the faithful come home. Only the faithful have hearts that are true, and they wait out the rain for the sun to shine through. Lonely the faithful, they stand on their own. Love will survive, they keep it alive till the faithful come.
Love will survive, they keep it alive till the faithful come home. That was a song that didn't get used in a movie.
It's a great song.
It is a great song. And yes, Pat Romano, I wrote that with Tico Torres and Chris Cassone. Tico, you know, as the drummer for Bon Jovi, and Chris, maybe you know, as the oh, I don't know, head engineer at North Lake. He's been a bunch of things. But here we are. Look at that. Beat the odds in business and life. My good friend, my old friend and brother with sticks, Sandy Gennaro, is making a return visit to the show today, and that's cool because I get to talk about drum stuff. But Sandy is more than just a drummer. He is an what would you call that? Motivative speaker, someone who motivates people. Come on, help me out here. What would you call that? He gives
A positive influence.
well, yeah, but he was always that, even before he was doing a motivational speaker. Thank you very much, nobody, for helping me out.
Well, I thought you said that.
I didn't say it quite that eloquently.
Oh.
I said
Motivational speaker.
Yeah, that's which I got to tell you, that's a cool thing to be, especially if you've really gotten enough out of your life to be able to actually do that. Now, like many of us, Sandy has been through every level of this business, and he is a lifer. He is a survivor. He is a guy who figures out how to keep walking down the road. And I admire him very much. He's a fine player, a good friend, and he's actually early, which is unusual for a drummer. But you know how it goes, so I'm going to let him in. Okay? Let me show you the book one more time, because there's probably not going to be any time for talking about that. Boom! There it is.
Yeah.
In business and life.
That's right.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay, so let's come on in, bro. Here he comes. Ding dong, come in. Oh, look at that. That's a nice.
How are you, Steven?
Hey, good. Sandy, how are you, bro?
I'm good. Look at your little virtual space capsule
Oh,
there.
I'm out here where it's safe. I pump in fresh oxygen. I've got a good view. I'm happy out here.
Awesome.
You got your own universe of planets going on back there.
I do. I do. Thanks for noticing. I do.
I did notice. Well, listen, I'm a sucker for, for a good, beautiful display, especially when it appreciates the work that we do. So, man, that's
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure you have some of those little placards that,
Yeah, I've got some stuff tucked around here somewhere.
Awesome.
And yeah, listen, we love what we do, but what was the first one?
The first one was actually Cindy's, I believe. Yeah, before that I was with Travers, and I don't think he ever went gold. I wasn't part of the record, the Go For What You Know record with Tommy Aldrich on it. But I toured in support of that record. But I don't think I have a record from that gig. But yeah, Cindy, and then Joan, and a bunch of singles, and there's one from Bo Diddley up there, and the singles. It's just a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff, and every time I look at that, I just have a sense, like you said, a sense of appreciation of all the water that went under that bridge. You know what I mean? It's like. Yeah, but you know what, Steven? You bring that 5 times platinum record to the subway, and they still want a friggin' token on it.
No, they steal it from you.
All right.
No, you don't take that. That goes nowhere.
Right. Well, I should rephrase that and say they still want a Metro card token. I'm showing my age.
No, I'm going to tell you funny. Look, you and I have both been on our share of tour buses, right? It's just
Right.
a funny story. And I was always particular about my bunk. If the door, the door that went back to where the bunks are, if it opened to the left, I wanted to be on the right. If it opened to the right, I wanted to be on the left. And so I've got this younger touring guy on the show, and I'm telling him all about my clever plan. And he says to me, the doors don't have hinges on them anymore, Steve. You press a button and it slides.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was
So
your speaking of that, what was your favorite position if you had a choice? Let's say you were on a bus with, they make the 12 bunkers and 6 bunkers. What was your let's say a 6 bunker. What would you or a 12 bunker, whatever. What was your favorite spot?
I like to be in the well, like I said, in the middle. If it's three, three in a row, I want to be in the middle, and
Right.
my junk bunk would be the one above me, right?
Right.
But on the opposite side of where the door opens and as close to the front as possible.
Right.
Yeah, that's just that's
I,
just
I always the same thing. I wasn't really cognizant of the door situation, but that's a good point. But I always wanted to be in the middle of not the bottom because you're not the bottom and not the top because they're doing this.
yeah.
But how did you, whatever band you were in, how did you decide when the band was approaching the bus? How did you the first time?
Oh, those things were decided long in advance.
Oh, was they? Was they?
Long in advance. It was more like people were being informed where they were not going to be able to sleep. Because the nice thing, especially when we did the tours with Entwistle, he took the back lounge. He was
Right.
so okay. Go back there with the diesel fuel and the fumes and the frickin' ride on a snowmobile or whatever. But he loved it back there. He loved it back there.
Really?
I love the bunk. I always slept great on the bus. I love the bus.
Yeah, I did too. I slept really good on the bus too. I mean, that goes to say that we would stay up till all hours in the morning doing whatever. But I always slept really good. How we did in Cyndi Lauper's band, we used to run towards the bus. Let's say we would meet the bus in L.A. and get off the plane and get our luggage, and we would take our carry-ons because our crew would take care of our big luggage, and we'd run to the bus. And whoever was there first, we'd throw our carry-on in the bus, and that's I claimed it.
Okay. Well, that's I've seen that happen. I couldn't afford. And and you said something that made it obvious that the hinge on the door didn't matter. In those days, you weren't noticing if the door was banging into your bunk. If you were in there and your eyes were closed, there was nothing else going on in the world.
Right, right. And it usually had, when it's closed, and we used to have a rule, always close it behind you, especially at night when people are sleeping. But it always kind of engaged when it closed, it latched, I hated it when people left the door open and would go, wah, 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 swing. Interesting, I've never been on a tour bus like this before, but when I was with Travers, we opened for Richie the Rainbow. We opened for Richie Blackmore, and we went on his bus one night. And Richie, the band stayed separately. The band was on another bus. He had his own bus, and we were invited on his bus. What went on there, I'm not going to go into. It was like kind of weirdly weird. If you know anything about Richie Blackmore,
I was in that band for a week.
were you? Like in the early '80s?
No, whenever bent out of shape, I got a call from Bruce Payne that Chuck Berge was playing, and something must have happened, and they asked me to come to what's the studio? Bear Tracks.
Right.
You recorded there. And I went and played, and I rehearsed, and it was a whole bunch of stuff, and then it just didn't. Let's just say it didn't work out.
The chemistry didn't work out. When I toured with Rainbow, Bobby Rondinelli was the drummer, and Jolyn Turner was the singer, and then I had Richie and Roger Glover and keyboard.
Love Roger. Still friends with Roger to this day.
Yeah, he's awesome. He comes to Nashville quite often just to hang out. He's awesome. But what I was saying before was on Richie Blackmore's bus. You walk on, it was the front lounge, and then you go kind of around towards the side of the bus, and right there to the right hand side was a bed, like a queen size bed. It was one bedroom on. It was a solo guy bus. Then there was then there was a lounge in the back, but there was one bed in the middle of the bus, and that's where he stood.
Wow.
Yeah, since then, I've never seen a bus with just one bed.
Wow. Oh, maybe you lost a bet.
Or maybe he won a bet.
Yeah. He was an interesting guy.
Yeah, he was. He was.
He was, he, did you know Cookie and Colin and all the crew, all the road crew for Rainbow?
I'm not sure if we had the same crew in '81. This was a difficult to cure tour. It was in 1981.
Yeah, it was. That was probably before. If it was Rondinelli, it was way before me. I think
Yeah.
I was 85 or
Ah,
86. And like I said, it was a week. But
right.
I knew the roadies. A lot of the guys were from Long Island, and Richie lived on Long Island at the time. And I'm down in the lobby of this place, and they're going, "Hey, Rat Race Choir! Hey, Rat Race!" And Richie comes down the stairs, and he says, "Rat Race Choir, interesting name. Who came up with that one?" And I said, "Well, actually, it's a lyric from a." It's Bob Dylan. I didn't say it's a lyric. I said, actually, Bob Dylan. And he goes, "Oh, was he in the band?" And I said, "Nah, he was a songwriter from the Village." So I knew it was going to a very weird place.
Right. You know, you never really saw him aside from that one night that we were all invited on the bus. We never really saw him. And but once when we played Long Island, I think it was Nassau Coliseum. We saw him go from the and we headline. We used to co-headline, Travers headline, depending on the market.
Right, of course.
They opened in Long Island, strangely enough, and then when we were going on, we saw him walking to. It was like an indoor parking, like where it was in indoors. And he got into a car with his wife, and he had this kind of Mickey Mouse mask on. He had a mask on, and we were all going, "What? What? What?" And he's going to his car, and there's nobody around. The fans are not around to recognize. He had a freaking mask on, walking to his car like nothing happened. It's like. But Roger is awesome, and I forget the name of the keyboard player. He's still with Deep Purple.
Rosenfeld.
Dave Rosenthal. If it's the same guy.
No, it wasn't the same guy. He's a British guy, a British guy. He's still with Deep Purple now with Roger. It doesn't matter. He's a British guy. He's still with them, but he was with them in the early '80s, whatever.
Yeah, he was a great guy. I liked playing with Roger. And in fact, when I did my Entwistle film, Roger met me in the city, and we did a chat about it for the film. I finished it after John passed, so
Right.
naturally you got to ask Roger Glover, you got to ask Chris Squire, and
Right.
go on down the list. So, yeah, but he was great, Roger. He was really he's always been a good guy.
Down to earth guy.
Yeah, real down to earth, and just but a great player. I mean, man, he's right in there. Wherever you're putting it down, he's there. He's on top of it. It was incredible. A lot of fun to play with him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good that you got that opportunity, even if it's for a week. It was cool, very cool.
Yeah, it was cool. It was great, and like I said, we remained friends. Richie and I probably not so much,
Right, right. Well,
but you know how that goes, right?
yes, I do.
And it's weird, because I come from that school of thought where I think every day we're in a band, it's like a family, we're all friends, it's a gang, that's street mentality. And then you get woken up.
I empathize with that, Steve, because when I get involved in a gig, regardless of the compensation or the amount of compensation or whatever, or the level in which you're in the band, I always get emotionally involved, and I always want to do the best I can and make the artist happy, whoever the artist is, or whoever the main or the singer. If I'm in a band, I always want to make them happy, and I'll make sure my drums are extra shiny, and you know what I mean. Little things like that. Make sure the drum heads, straight up and down, 12-6. And it kind of like speaking to what you just said. It kind of hurts a little bit when okay, Sandy, I'll see you.
Yeah. Unless you were ready to go.
Oh, right. Well,
There's that too.
in some cases, I was ready to go. Right.
Sandy, we'll see you. No, you won't.
Right.
You won't.
Next.
And the funny thing is, man, we really, as you and I have been through some pretty parallel universes as far as our careers and what we did as young players, and then what we did as we came up, and the ebb and flow of the business. And I follow you somewhere. I think it's Twitter or Instagram, and I see those motivational things, and I think that stuff is just brilliant, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Because not everybody can convey that.
Right.
And our business does teach you a lot of lessons.
Absolutely. And you know what, Steve? Not only do we have we traveled in, but we traveled in the same circles in the same kind of locale in the New York area. You know, the China Club and all, Cat Club and all of that stuff. You know, Long Island and the gigs and you know whatever. So I think that was kind of special. And you know, China Club. I mean, the memories that we have of the China Club. I mean, you can go on and on. Some of them you can't mention in a public forum, but. Just awesome memories, and I'm so happy, and I'm sure you share this sentiment, Steve, is that I am so happy and so fortunate and thankful that I was born when I was born. And I came up, I'm 71, born in 1951. You know, in 1960, I was 9. From 61 to 71, I was 9 to 19. That was my teenage years in the 60s. You know, with all the, you know, rock and roll was just like, it was like a blooming plant. It was like coming and flourishing with all the live gigs and the Beatles at Shea Stadium and all of that. It was a template moment.
Well, it's, you know, it's funny that you say that, because one of the things, and I don't like to make, you know, age is never a part of anything. The only thing it's a part of is your experience. Now,
Correct.
I'm a year behind you. That's, you know, so for all intents and purposes, you know,
Yeah.
we did it at the same time.
Right.
And I remember the excitement that not being able to just turn it on and see it, the anticipation of, you know, when am I going to find out something else? When is, you know, you didn't know anything. Sometimes, I mean, when Led Zeppelin came out, you didn't even know what they looked like. It had such great mystique and
Right.
such power, and it formed a code for, you know, for me. I had to, for you, there was a code, like a, you know, like the mafia with a little less blood.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it was, you're either in it or you're not in it, and you
Right.
know, and I talk about proud, man. I mean, look at where we are. Look at, you know, together we're like 140 years old. I mean,
141.
141. We're doing okay. I mean, think of all the things. I was scanning through the book. Oh, Jerry Renino.
Jerry Renino.
Do you know Al Renino?
I met Al Renino.
I got to tell you a funny story. The fans have heard this a million times. This is a great story, because Al is like one of my favorite bass players on the planet. Plus, he's a big Star Trek guy.
Right.
I get a call from Leslie West. Right, Leslie says, "Steve, we need a bass player that plays like Jack Bruce." I said, "Okay, I know just the guy. Al loves Jack Bruce, but you know." And I said, "Okay, where are we playing?" He said, "Nassau Coliseum." I said, "When?" He said, "Tomorrow."
Oh, shit.
Now, Al is like, you know, I mean, you know, Jerry, you pretty much know Al. They pretty much
Yeah.
cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
Now, Al shows up with his rig and his this and that, and we're sitting in the dressing room together, and he's a little nervous. I said to Leslie, "What about rehearsal?" He goes, "He knows the songs."
Right.
So Leslie comes in and he says, "Alan," his real name is Al, but it's Albert. Say, "Alan, when we get to the Nantucket Sleigh Ride, I want you to go ba da 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 da." No, wait a minute, wait a minute, whoa. Go ba da 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 da. Wait a minute. Ba da 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 da. Never mind. Just do it the first way, and walks out. And Al's like,
Right.
and he goes, "What do I do?" And I said, "Don't worry about it. He's not even going to remember he was in here in 5 minutes." So just,
You know, I think Jerry was, from what I remember, I think Jerry was a little intimidated by Al. Like, in other words, because Al was like the big brother, and Jerry also had another younger brother as well that I played with and jammed with in informal scenarios. But Jerry was a sweetheart of a guy, man. He was awesome. He was just
Yeah.
awesome.
yeah, and I'm still in touch with Al. I mean, you know,
Are you?
oh yeah, he's still playing and doing his thing, and
Awesome.
he's look, if you get to do it every day or 5 days a week or whatever it is, it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Still at this point, right?
Yeah, and he's
You know, I gotta tell you this funny story about we're talking about growing up, and everything was new, like in the 60s and 70s. Everything was like fresh and new, and you didn't have momentary access to everything to see how it YouTube or whatever. I remember, I think it was 1968 or 67. WNEW in New York was hyping the Hendrix record. They were playing Fire and Purple Haze all over WNEW in anticipation of the release of the record. And I was just drawn to those. It sounded so different and so unique. Anyway, Scott Muni or whoever said, "Oh yeah, it's coming out this Friday. It'll be released at 10 o'clock this Friday morning." So I went from Staten Island, took the ferry subway up to 8th Street in the Village, and stood outside a record store online at like 9:30. 10 o'clock it opened. I walked in and I told the guy, "I want the new Jimi Hendrix Experience record." And he says, "Okay, hold on one second." He gets a box, rips open the box, takes out, puts the little sticker on it. The price, I think it was $4.95 or something. And I brought it back home to the ferry. I looked at that friggin' album cover and I could not believe what I was seeing. The front and the back, the two white guys with the curly hair and the black guy in the middle. I'm going, what the hell is this? I brought it home and I remember listening to the whole record on my voice, Altec Lansing voice of the theater speakers in my room on 11. And I was just looked at the record, and I had a band rehearsal that afternoon, my high school band or whatever. And we had a battle of the bands that night. And at the rehearsal that afternoon, we learned on the record play, one skip at a time, Fire and Purple Haze. And we played it that night. It wasn't really stellar. It wasn't without mistakes, but we won the battle of the bands. But it just goes to show you that. You remember, I'm sure you did it. You stood on your couch or your chair in your room and you just looked at and you thought it was cool when an album folded out and it had the big picture of the band, like a Grand Funk Railroad comes to mind. Like it had the big picture.
Yeah, and it's funny because I did a bunch of shows with Mark Farner.
Yeah,
and
me too.
we're talking about I can't remember that, and I'm bad with managers' names, but somebody, you remember when they had the billboard E Pluribus Funk in Times Square?
Yeah.
Well, do you remember that it was up there for a really, really, really long time?
I don't remember that, but
There was a strike. The guys who did and it was up there for like 3 months. And
Right.
Mark said, "Yeah, it was the best free publicity ever." And I forget
Awesome.
De Benedetto maybe I don't know. Whoever their manager was, and
yeah, I'm not. But you know what? That's another thing that I really enjoy, and you've experienced this. Fillmore East, and I used to go almost every weekend. My mother, I don't know how my mother allowed me to go as a teenager, take the ferry and the M15 bus and get off at 2nd Avenue.
Wow.
But I remember being online it's in Grand Funk Railroad. They opened for somebody, and I remember seeing the poster. The first album was called On Time. And it had Mark Farner with the headband and the long blonde hair, whatever. And then when you go on, because I did some fantasy camps with Mark, and we played together very well. And I did a handful of live shows with him. I know his drummer now. He's from Memphis, a black drummer, really, really good. But, and I reminisced with him. I said, "Mark, it's one of the thrills of being in the music business that when you see somebody early on the big stage, and then you end up, now I'm staring at his ass going, doing that Mark Farner thing."
Right. I know exactly what you're talking about.
But I think that was so cool. I felt that way too with the Monkees too. I mean, I used to be a big fan of the Monkees, and now I'm smoking a doobie with Davy Jones in my hotel room. It's like, come on, man, how cool is that?
That's
How
pretty
cool is
freaking
that?
cool. That's pretty cool. And it's funny because Farner, when we were kids, we used to play closer to home, and we're an American band, at cover. So to actually, and then I hadn't played it in 30 years, it fell out of the playlist. We stopped playing, when life goes on. Then all of a sudden, I'm in a situation where we're playing Germain Arena, and I'm playing that song with Mark Farner. It's just surreal, it's just amazing I know exactly how you feel.
It's awesome. And if you want to see a manifestation of that, if you search on YouTube, Mark Farner, Howard Stern, I was on. We did a fantasy camp, and Mark was asked to do a Howard Stern like at 6 o'clock one morning, and I was asked to play drums, and it was me, Kip Winger. He played bass. Teddy Andriatis, who keyboard player.
Oh, I know Teddy. Yeah,
And
played
Bruce
with,
Kulick. Bruce Kulick played with Blackjack with me, and we were all on stage together, and we're doing "I'm Your Captain" closer to home on Howard Stern, and you can see it on YouTube.
That's wild.
It's awesome, man. I play behind plexiglass, but that's besides the point. But it was really cool. We had to play at a low volume, but it was really, really cool, man. I was like really focused in on every little hit. I wanted it to be perfect.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And the thing about it for me is, it was already programmed from all those years before, and to remember, first rehearsal we did, we just ran through it, and if I had to write it down or tell you what was going to happen, I couldn't do it. But playing it, I knew what was coming next. I knew when it went to the, the
Right.
do 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 boom, yeah, and it was
Right.
so. It was like, man, it was a full circle moment,
Yeah, that's a very cool song. There's a lot of different groove changes,
Yeah.
as you well know. It's really, really cool, man. And I'm looking over, and I never outgrew that. I never got jaded. I'm looking over at Mark Farner. I'm going, man, this is fucking Phil Maurice, man. Phil Maurice, are you kidding? This is very cool. It's awesome. I never lost that appreciation of I never got jaded. I never got. I'm like a little kid sometimes when I'm in a certain situation, whatever.
Well, I'll tell you an interesting thing. I'm doing this project now. I'd like to believe that I am the first person to produce a live documentary, it's actually on the life and times of Roy Orbison. There's a band
Cool.
that plays the music, and then there's video and narration and the whole 9 yards, right? And there's one part in the narration where it talks about when they first started doing the Wilbury stuff, right? Jeff Lynne was at the center of all that stuff.
Right.
Jeff Lynne says something to the effect of, he said, you're sitting around in the control room and everybody's like, whoa. What he's talking about, Tom Petty, Bob Dylan,
George Harrison.
and George Harrison going, whoa, that's Roy Orbison. And he said, but then, it's all cool because you're hanging out telling stories and going out to dinner. But when he gets up to that mic and starts doing his business, it's shutter time.
Absolutely, man.
Wow. I mean, just such a powerful statement. And why would you not want to feel that? Why would you not want to get that rush, man?
Right. Right.
That's like, that's.
And it's a generational thing, Steve. I mean, you look at Jeff Lynne and even Harrison as a friggin' Beatle. Are you kidding? Bob Dylan. Are you kidding? But they look at somebody like Roy, the generation before Roy Orbison, and they're like how you and I feel with Mickey Dolenz and Davy Jones and Mark Farner. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I know exactly what you mean. And the thing about that is, the guys for me were like the Rascals, the Byrds, and I saw all those combo concerts at the Westchester County Center. The Wee Five and the Circle, and
Right.
Come on, Paul Revere and the Raiders,
Right.
But I was there to see the Byrds and the Rascals, and it was just it was mind-boggling. And years later, I became friendly, I'm sure as you have over the years, with Gene Cornish. Gene's like a brother.
Yeah.
I get the daily joke, and it's just that. And I still keep that duality of it's my friend Gene, but it's the guy from the Rascals who used to play
Ed Sullivan.
Black Barney Kessel. And
Right.
so, but it's cool. And that's, to be honest with you, bro, that's the whole motivation for me doing this show, is so that people really get to go on the ride a little bit that we've been on for all this time. Not to show off or
Right.
do anything like that, but, how else are you going to see it or hear about it? And this is just you and me hanging out, and this is what we would talk about if we were on the subway or if we were fighting over that bunk.
Right. Right.
And
But
I'll
yeah,
tell you
I appreciate that concept, Steve. Your concept of this show is that, hey, this is no politics. We don't want to go there and whatever controversy. We just want to talk about our experiences and positive, uplifting experiences, and we have tons of them.
yeah, and so many people. Did you? You were talking about China Club. Did you ever get to play with Noel Redding when he was hanging out down there?
No, no. I think I was at the China Club when he jammed one night, but I never. I did see Noel Redding in a band called Fat Mattress. I saw him.
Yeah, that's going.
I saw him in San Francisco, but no, I was there that night, but I never played with Noel.
I played with him. I was one. I don't know who else played. I was, in the core band that night, and we played together. And, I wasn't going to Jimi Hendrix him to death because that's the worst thing in the world that you can do. And so I made it a point not to do that, even though Hendrix is that's my one beam of light that, opened everything up for me. And, but he was you could tell that he was like pissed, just, he wasn't happy about the Hendrix thing.
Right.
And it was, instead of celebrating it, he was, I don't know, just one of those.
Well, I don't know that much about that whole situation, but from my knowledge, I think Hendrix played bass on most of that stuff, and Noel was a guitar player. As far as a musical rhythm section configuration, I know I'm speaking to the right person who understands. But usually in a band, the bass player and the drummer lock in, and then the guitar player and vocals are over on top of that foundation. But in Hendrix, Mitch and Jimmy went to the stratosphere. They were like in a spaceship like you're in right now. And Noel was dun 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 dun, 8 notes. Dun dun.
Yep.
He was the guitar player playing with a pick, and all he did was hold the bottom down and hold the chord progression down, whatever it was, and they went off into outer space.
And
that's what made them special.
That is exactly. I mean, it was that same kind of unusual chemistry. We can go anywhere we want, and let's go there. But the thing about Noel was, Jimmy was in the service, and I'm not. Believe me, I'm not the Jimmy aficionado, but Jimmy was in the service with Billy Cox.
Right.
And he said, "You will always be my bass player. You will always be." So Billy Cox played on some of those songs. Hendrix certainly played on some of them. And you can tell the ones that he played on because it's his style, how he would go after those parts. And I remember reading something that the reason Noel got that gig was Hendrix liked his look.
Is the hair.
And the little glasses.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny. I seen Hendrix at the Singer Bowl in support of the Are You Experience record. The Singer Bowl, the World's Fair, right? One of the venues from the World's Fair. It was in the round, and the Soft Machine opened from England. No bass player. A B3 with a pedal bass, a guitar, and drums. Chambers Brothers was second. Big Brother with Janis third. Hendrix was the headliner. And I remember you played at Westbury. You played on some whirly gigs. We called them whirly gigs.
Right.
But in Westbury, it kind of gradually turned around, and like every 5 minutes, it would come around to the same place. But at a Singer Bowl, it would turn like 1/4 of the way. Well, let's say it would start at 12, and then it would go to 3 and stop. And then it would go to 6 and stop, go to 9, etc. But on the start and stop, it was a little sudden. Hendrix was effed up. He had to go to the stage. Everybody entered and exited the stage from the crowd because it was in the round, right? So they had a little pathway or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was being helped on stage, and I remember he had all white skin tight pants where you saw his, he needed a holster. If you know, and he had and the embroidery on his bell bottoms, and every time it stopped, he would go, "Hey man, you weren't sitting there 5 minutes ago."
I was just gonna tell you, we're playing. I'm playing with Entwistle, and we're doing one of those in Ventura Beach, California. I can't remember what it was, but it was the round, right? And John had no idea that it was in the round, right? And he never really looked out. He always kind of looked at the drums or looked whatever. John not a very
Right. Right.
and all of a sudden he's playing, and all of a sudden he looks around at me with this weird look on his face, and the song ends, and I said, "What's going on? What's going on?" He comes over to the drums and he said, "Well, I was making eyes at this girl, and next time I turned around, she was bald."
Same thing, man. Now, did Godfrey play with you with Entwistle?
Oh yeah. He was in the second incarnation of the Entwistle band.
Cool.
But yeah, he did, and I'll tell you what, he was just the right guy to play in that band. He had that whole thing, that whole spontaneity. I mean, we
Right.
really got to enjoy ourselves. I mean, essentially, it was there was a keyboard player, but it's just a power trio with people going crazy.
Right.
He was a great guitar player in that band.
And what is he? Is he doing that oldies thing? He's doing like some. Hey, Steve, 1 second. I'm going to close this shade.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
The sun is setting here and now.
I see that, and it's there you go.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah, now we're
So hopefully we're recording this now, right? This is not the pre-show. This is the show, right?
Well, this is it. Yeah, no, we're.
Awesome.
That's why I'm out here, because I'm using the telescope to really make sure that it gets to those other 6,000 galaxies or whatever it was. Now and the truth is, I don't think I've spoken to Godfrey in over 20 years.
Wow.
After the band, the band. We used to have to balance ourselves against the Who,
Right.
obviously, and then after we did that last tour, it ended in Japan. That's probably the last time I saw Godfrey. Maybe at John's memorial service. Well, I think I saw him, but you know how it goes. I mean, you're just gone, and it's
Yeah. I saw him maybe. I'm living in Nashville about eight years now, but I seen him maybe about 5 years ago. He came through town. He was doing one of those hippie fests.
yeah.
One of those, like an oldies, grassroots, the Mickey Dolans, Peter Noon, all of that.
Yeah, I forget why, it's the Happy Together tour, I think.
That's it.
But now he's with the Yardbirds.
Yeah, now he's
Kenny
playing.
Aronson.
Yeah, he's playing with Kenny Aronson, if you can believe, in the Yard.
Right. And who's the original member there? Who's the original Yardbird?
Jim McCarty, the drummer.
Oh, okay. Not to be confused with Jim McCarty from Detroit, from Rockets.
Yeah, but there was another one. What was the band that he was in that was so? Oh, come on! It was Carmine.
Cactus.
Yes, Cactus.
One of my favorite bands, man.
Great stuff. And we used to. What about Evil? Do you remember that song?
Yeah, I do.
I played that. Elliot Rubinson, who owned, rest in peace, the old Thoroughbred Music, and then bought Dean, which is Armadillo. He was an amazing bass player, and he played with Carmine and played with those guys in Cactus. So we got hired. My trio got hired to do a fundraiser, and I invited him down and said, would you play Evil? And man, what a great song to play.
Absolutely.
Wow.
One of my favorite Cactus songs is side 1, track 1, Parchment Farm. It's like a burning shuffle with Carmine's doing tick-tock. And I put that on. Sometimes I put that on in the morning and crank it, and it's like, okay, let's go. It's better than a cup of coffee for to get you going. It's like so. And that's another thing, like you talk about. I used to follow the Fudge all around New York, go to places that how my mother allowed me to go on my own. I have no idea, but I'm grateful that she did. And then you become friends with Carmine. He had dinner at my house when he was in town doing some sort of podcast thing or whatever. And him and Vinny came to Vinny and Dwayne Hitchings.
Oh.
Dwayne Hitchings, who co-wrote, he co-wrote Young Turks with Carmine. Da 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 da. And he also wrote the keyboard line in "Do You Think I'm Sexy?" Whatever.
Oh.
So
Okay.
Dwayne is a good friend of Carmine's. They wrote together, whatever. So that's another thrilling thing. And I'm going to my wife. There's Carmine's eating meatballs in my house. In my house, it's like I love it, man. I become like a little kid again. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's funny because you have to walk with that duality because you can't be too little kid.
Correct. Right. You can't be fanboy, right?
Otherwise, you're staring at the back door.
Right.
But yeah, but to embrace that, I went through that. Believe me, you know, especially with Entwistle, I was friends with Leslie. I mean, Leslie and I were friends, so to a point that you can be with Leslie.
Right.
But John and I were like the best of friends, and it was talk about surreal. I mean, it was just nuts.
Yeah, that's that. To have a classic guy like that, what he'd been through, and, the Who in the beginning. You think about the early days of the Who in England, and I think I saw you with John at one gig with BB King.
I'm sure, yeah. We used
And
to,
yeah, John Paris was a big fan of John Entwistle, and he brought me. John Paris brought me backstage, and we took a picture together with John and some guy that John Paris knew that used to be the roadie for Hendrix, some guy named Nigel or something.
oh, Night Bob. Night Bob.
What did he?
Night Bob?
I'm not sure. No, it was a British guy.
No,
I want to say Nigel. I used to call him Nigel. I used to always mess his name up. But anyway, so yeah, I think I saw, and I remember, I think that was the night, and rumor had the talk around BB King's was he had come from a Who event at the Garden, and then he went straight from there to BB King's. John Entwistle did, and
you want me to tell you the story?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this is the absolute story. 9/11 happens. We already have a tour booked for the whole 2001, and we're booked. We're actually
Right.
doing two separate tours in between one another,
Right.
and Bobby Pridden, their sound man, said Pete would like you guys, me and John, to submit some songs for an album, to write, talk about an opportunity.
Right.
Let's write some songs for the Who with the bass player. Okay.
I can do that. Right.
So I have to take a flight, right? And it's September, man. I've taken a flight. And I get to John's and we're working on some stuff and we're playing demos back and forth and the phone rings and he goes, yeah, no, can't do it, I'm playing. And hangs up the phone. And I said, who was that? And he said, Pete. I said, yeah, what can't you do? And he said, Paul McCartney wants to put on a concert at Madison Square Garden, but we've already got a gig. Which was the gig you're talking about?
BB King's.
Now,
It was a fundraiser.
it was a fundraiser. We had
Right.
already booked the night before, but then when 9/11 happened, I called BB King and said, look, we'll leave our stuff there and we'll do the next night for, the first responders or whatever. And John was all about it. So this was in the first week after 9/11, we were already on this thing.
Right.
So, did you ever wonder why the Who went on so early at that show? It's because John said I gotta go and do my show at BB King's.
Right.
And
Right.
so every rehearsal, they had me staying at the Plaza with John. Then they'd have the car pick John up, take him to rehearsal. He would come back to the Plaza. They'd pick me up and either fly us or drive us or whatever to our gig in wherever Rhode Island or what. Yeah.
Well, Pete offered for John
Yeah,
to
Pete
cancel.
said, I'll pay your band, I'll pay,
cancel
I'll
your-
pay everything. Just cancel your tour. And John said, we don't need your charity.
Wow.
And he put them through, but he was not disappointing his fans, and he was not going back on his word that we were going to do a show. And so the minute the Who were done, not the minute, but within 15 or 20 minutes, we were in that. You've done the Garden. We're in the limo going down the thing on our way uptown to BB King's.
Right.
So yeah, true
I
story.
remember seeing you guys play, and I remember seeing John's bass rig, and I'm going, man, I don't know how Steven can freaking hear himself. It was like, two or three refrigerator size amps,
Exactly,
all
yeah.
kinds of shit, the rack and this and that. It was like, holy shit.
Oh yeah, he was. But and the funny thing about that is he would use the same rig at Madison Square Garden.
Right.
He would, at the Boy Scout Jamboree in the YMCA. I did,
Right.
he just. We played this place. We did gas dates like anybody, right? We had to play this place called the Turning Point.
Oh, that's in Piermont.
Exactly
New
right.
York, yeah.
Okay, he used that rig.
Small little place.
We were killing fish. That's why they had to. That's why they had to replace the Tappan Zee Bridge because we played there. Oh yeah, and the crew came out and said, "How much should we bring in?" And he went, "All of it." And it was like, "You're just so." And Godfrey was standing on the floor in front of the stairs, and the keyboard player was set up on the stairs.
Unbelievable. And you had to play your ass off in order to compete.
Oh, you bet.
Oh man, the volume in that Turning Point club that night, I can't just imagine. I never played there. I've been in there, but I never played there. I can't imagine.
Man, let me tell you what, we were getting lawyers' letters for months.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Come on. Are you kidding? And after that show, I had this, a very sticky line. I said, want to let you know before we start that earplugs are $1 a pair out at the,
Merch.
the merch station. And after the first song, they're $50.
So get him now.
Yeah, right. So get them now. So let's do a little of this because I'm very interested to know about this. I have it obviously, but what led you here, and what an interesting journey in there.
Well, my presentation, my motivational presentation, is based around an acronym called BEATS. Go figure. And I've been not only playing beats for over 50 years, but I've been living these principles. And these principles are belief in a positive way. Now, you can always look at the fork in the road and go to the negative side of all of these. But in a positive way, belief, B, enthusiasm, attitude, tenacity, and service. And you have to apply these principles in your everyday life. It's a combination of basically what you believe in, your enthusiasm about the future, even though it may not occur like you visualize it, but always a creative visualization in terms of how things are going to turn out in the future. And enthusiasm, and I liken it to the story where when I was 6 years old, a little kid on Christmas morning, I used to get up at 5 a.m. when the house was dark and creep into the living room and see the dark Christmas tree. But I saw all those presents, and I knew that they were going to be good, but I didn't know what was in those presents, but I knew it was going to be awesome. And that's the way I try to look at the future anyway. So in my motivational speaking, a lot of people have said, man, you got to write a book based on all your experiences, and how it's not an autobiography. I want people to understand it's not, I was born here and this and that. It's basically how you live your life. And I weave all of those principles and how I live those principles throughout my whole life in a positive way, and telling behind the scenes stories with platinum artists, the Hall of Fame, Bo Diddley, Joan Jett, and Johnny Winter. These are 3 Hall of Famers, and behind the scenes stories. So it makes for an interesting read. If even if you're not a rocker, if you're not interested in rock and roll, it's the lessons that I and it applies to leadership in a company, CEOs, and because I speak to CEOs all the time. And originally I thought, what am I going to tell a bunch of CEOs sitting around a table? But these guys that are heads of like billion-dollar companies. But it's basically, the thing is, and this, where you meet somebody, a big businessman or the owner of a company, and they're backstage at an Entwistle gig, and they're looking at you, hey, what's it like to play with the bass player for The Who? What's it, you get, so the music And the music that I've been involved with breaks down any kind of barrier that it may have with a CEO. And I wrap the stories around how these CEOs can go back to their office and treat their employees better, and how that makes their business better. Their customers are happier or whatever. So it's that kind of engagement, and it's a combination, Steve. The way I look at life, it's a combination of how you think and what your perception is, and what you perceive to events that happen to all of us on the outside, and us personally, and things that happen in the world, and in combination with a positive outlook on events that haven't happened yet or have happened. It's a combination of that and how you treat people. Because every single gig, and I'm sure you could speak to this, every single gig that I've ever gotten has been as a result of a relationship, indirectly or directly, with somebody. I never got a gig from my resume, never. And and I use this metaphor in my speaking, my speaking gig, icing and cake, and I bring up the situation where you see a drummer and he's playing all over the song. I don't want to mention Keith Moon, but because he was right for The Who. He was perfect for The Who. But I'm talking about, let's say, a guy, playing all over the song. He's playing in front of 1,000 people for the first time in his life. His family's in the audience, his girlfriend, other drummers, and he's playing for other drummers. He wants to show off and whatever. That's all the icing. And the cake is the guy with the same amount of technical ability, but he's playing boom, 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 bah, just what the song needs. He's serving the song. The spotlight is on the song and the singer, not on him. And I metamorphosize that with business, where the icing is all about the numbers. Did you reach your quota this month? What about your bonus? What about spreadsheets and resumes and pie graphs and whatever. The cake in a CEO situation, that's a boss is the one that pays attention to just the numbers. The leader pays attention to not only the numbers, but the people behind the numbers. They create a relationship with the people behind the numbers, and that's the cake.
Because that leads to more numbers. I'll tell you what, I started, I'm going back to this Roy Orbison thing again because it's the newest thing that I'm involved in. And I've set a precedent at the beginning to the crew, to the guys in the band, to anybody on production. We want to be the nicest, most accommodating people, and we will do as much as we can with whatever they give us. We're new kids on this, forget about my resume, your resume. That we are a new thing, and nobody knows what it is. Oh, that's good. Does it? Wow, I wonder who that is. Anyway, sorry.
Sell. Anyway,
Exactly. Buy, sell. It's down to how you treat people, and because everybody's just doing their job, and everybody's just trying to keep their job. One thing that I learned a long time ago, I forget what we were watching, some kind of a talk show, and the people that they call up tech support, or they call up the phone company, or they call up whatever, and they start screaming at the person that answers that person didn't pull your cable out.
Correct.
Are you nuts?
That's exactly it, John.
So I said to him, I say to myself, or I say to them, look, I am very upset because I've got this situation, but in no way do I direct this towards you. And so that way they kind of understand what's going on. There's a way to go through life, and you got to get along. You got to go along to get along, and it's
You treat, John. You treat me.
Steve, John's dead. John's dead.
Oh, Steve, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about John Entwistle. Sorry, Steve.
That's
But
okay.
you treat everybody. Yeah, I treat the janitor the same way I treat the CEO. I treat my roadie the same way I treat the person whose name is on the marquee.
Exactly.
And it's about how you treat people. I was on the phone the other day, speaking to what you just said about the phone conversation. I was on the phone with. I have a Chewy account, for my dog.
Oh yes, I love Huey.
Chewy's awesome. So I was on the phone about something or whatever, and she was very, very nice. I wasn't upset about. There was no issue or anything. But at the end of the conversation, as people, customer service people usually say, they say, "Is there anything else I can help you with?" And I said, "What's your name?" And she said, "Joanne." I said, "Joanne, you know what you can do for me?" She goes, "What?" I said, "I want you to put a big fat smile on your face, and I want you to be thankful for all the things that God has given you." And blah blah blah. And she said, and her voice started breaking up. She goes, "You know, Sandy," she said, "I really needed to hear that. What stuff that's going on in my life. I thank you so much." And that's what it's about. When I'm in Kroger or you're in Publix or whatever, I look at the name tag and I say, "Hello, Jimmy. How you doing today?" It's just
It's just, you know what? It's acknowledging somebody. No, I agree. Well, my Lori does that all the time. I love your blouse, or that's a great, bag, or whatever. It doesn't ever hurt to boost somebody up if you can, man.
absolutely, man, because we're all human beings, Stephen. We're all human beings. We all have that little flicker of flame inside of us. It's called a soul, and that's what makes all human beings at the common denominator. That's it. Regardless of what you do, your spaceship and John M. Wilson, whatever, and all these platinum records and the drum sets or whatever, are all going to stay here when I'm pushing up daisies or I'm on an urn on a mantelpiece somewhere. And that's what's going to matter. It's how we made people feel when they crossed our path. That's how we're judged. That's what I personally believe.
I couldn't agree more, man. And the thing about it is, uh, I love what I do. I love every inch of it. And there's not been a time. I mean, of course, there's loss. I lost John. I lost. There's always the
Right.
sadness or the defeat or whatever. The down times.
Correct.
I love what I do, and I don't ever kid myself that it's any different for anybody else that does anything else. You're $1 million CEO. Guess what? You were smoking that joint to the same record that everybody else
Right.
way
That's
before you were $1 million CEO.
that's
And that's
correct.
why the music resonates with those guys, because you cannot buy your way into our club. You're either
Correct.
a lifer and you're in it, or you're not.
And
And
you know what, John? With CEOs, sorry for interrupting, but with CEOs, it's you don't do it, treat people good and with respect and try to help people and raise people up for any other reason is because it feels good. But the inadvertent result of that is that your business gets better. Because when people that work for you feel like they belong and that they're valued and that their job is valued, their product or service gets better. They do their job better, and in return their customers are happier, and they tell the other people your business gets better. But if you're an a-hole and you're a boss and you reprimand and you threaten people with their jobs, and I've worked for some artists, I work for an artist, I'm not going to tell you his name. You know who he is, but I'm not going to tell you his name, and you won't guess it because not many people know I played with this guy. But he said, Sandy, if you didn't have this gig, you wouldn't be working. You'd be working at the supermarket. Drummers are a dime a dozen, buddy. So wear long sleeves because I don't want my blue hair audience to see your tattoos. I'm going, what? What are you talking about? I'm a drummer. I can't play whatever. So that's a boss mentality. And as soon as somebody offered me $1 more, I was out of there.
yeah,
So
yeah.
whatever. So we can be here all night talking about that
No,
because
we're not going to do that. We're going to eat dinner. But I will
Well,
tell you
wait,
one
where
story.
can your book be
Yes,
bought?
that's what I was going to say.
Because
Where?
everybody that's listening
Yeah,
is saying yes, yes.
is that your lovely wife, Stephen?
Yes,
Yes,
that's
it
Lori.
is.
Yeah.
Hey, Lori, how are you, honey?
I'm doing good, Sandy. How
Good.
about
It's nice. Good to hear your voice.
you too?
Best deal I
Listen.
ever signed.
You could I signed your book. I sent it to you
Oh,
personally.
yes, you did.
Yeah, you didn't get it. You didn't get it on Amazon or anything. You can get the book on Amazon right now. Just search my name, or you can. There you go. Beat the odds. You can search "Beat the Odds in Business and Life." You can get it there. There's also the digital version, and tomorrow I'm going to finish up the audio version. I'm dictating the book. So it is going to be. Everybody goes. You're going to do an audio version, but you have to see with that accent. You got to do it. So I'm doing that.
Exactly.
But if you want a signed copy, go to my website, sandygennaro.com, and there's on my website, there's information how to get a signed copy and how to get some Beat the Odds drumsticks as well. And I'll send it off to you. But
I'm going to tell you because I was just looking, and thank you for the for the for what you wrote. It's very cool, and it will live in a place of honor. But I'm going to tell you a funny story about the drum, right? I love your drum with the V. You know, your drum that you draw.
Oh, right. That's my logo, basically.
Right.
That's my autograph, basically.
But you exactly right. So John had this thing that when we would be in the meet and greet line, he would always sign his name, but he would do one spider. Right, that was it. Do one spider per signing. Right, so you were like the special one that got the spider.
Right.
So I started drawing the snare drum, right, with 2 sticks on it, right? And he's looking over at me doing it. He goes, "Don't worry, Steve. Someday they'll know you're the drummer."
Right.
It was cold sometimes, but
Right.
love
Well,
it.
it's getting a little cold in here.
Yeah, a little chilly. I tell you what, we could tell stories back and forth. You and I, we should write a book together.
That'll be awesome. Now, tell me about, just briefly, I know, because I'm going to have dinner as well. What is the deal with the live documentary? With the Royal?
Oh well, I've known this guy for decades. Who I've made 3 records, produced 3 records for him in various studios. He's a phenomenal songwriter. And one day, Laurie's outside the studio in New York, and she hears Bruce singing, and she says, "That sounds like Roy Orbison." And it clicks. Holy shit! It sounds like Roy Orbison. So I said to him, you really should blah, blah, blah. You know what we do, right?
Right.
Oh, you should do this, you should do that. You get a band, we'll do this, blah, blah. And so we've been talking about it for years, and he tried it on his own. He tried going to open mic nights. He's our age, and he might even be older by a year or 2. And couldn't get any traction. He played a little theater here and a little thing there. And all of a sudden, do you know Keith Crane? He's the drummer for the 1910 Fruit Gum Company.
No.
Matter. He's on the show. I meet him. We actually become friendly. We're talking about this and then the other thing. And I said, I'd love to put the band together because he's up by where Bruce lives. Long story short, I don't want to do another tribute band. Nobody wants to see guys wearing the wig and the sun.
Correct.
But this guy's voice and this band is so authentic that it really has to be seen and taken seriously. Not that the tributes, I'm not knocking anybody that does anything like that, but I wanted to do a documentary. So when the lights go down, it starts with Roy Orbison was born and and there's like a 3-minute intro that does the arc of his career, and then the band comes out. They play 4 songs. Then there's another video of how many gold records, how many awards, how many this and then the other thing. They play 4 more songs till they get to Only the Lonely, and then that's the cliffhanger, which is all the bad shit that happened.
Yeah, he had a lot of tragedy.
He had a lot of tragedy. He married his first wife, divorced her over her infidelity, remarried her, and then watched her get killed by a pickup truck on her motorcycle, and she died in his arms. He's on tour in England, and he gets a phone call from that his parents were staying with his 3 kids, and there was a fire in the house, and 2 of the kids died.
Lord.
So, and so it kind of goes there. Then there's the intermission. Then it comes back with the whole Wilburys thing and the thing that I told you. But it's that. It's not
Right.
storytellers where the guys on stage are talking, telling stories. It's presented with. I'll send you a link to the that's Ivy number. I'll send you a link to the sizzle reel.
I'd love that. I'd love to see that, Steve, because I'm a big fan of Roy Orbison. I mean, since the
man.
beginning, since Ed Sullivan, and the Beatles loved him and all of that. So
Well, the Beatles in '63 were opening for Roy,
Right.
And they were so overwhelmed. Roy was so overwhelmed. First, he had his posse out there taking down the posters, and then he said, "You know what? I can't fight this, guys. I should open up for you." And he took the opening slot and let the Beatles close that tour.
awesome.
Amazing stuff. I mean, just.
Okay, one of our regulars just ordered your book and the drumsticks.
Boom.
Awesome. Awesome. I'll send it out. I'll have an email as soon as they pay PayPal. I get the email from PayPal. I'll send it out. My wife helps me send the stuff out or whatever. So yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for letting me know that, Laurie. But yeah, Steve, definitely send me the link of the trailer, man. I'd love
I'm
to.
going to do that. I'm absolutely going to do it, Sandy. And, listen, I'll let you eat dinner
Yeah.
because I know right off camera the wife is going,
Come on, it's time for dinner.
Yeah, she was sitting here a little while ago, and she was going,
How much longer? Yeah, I start hitting.
and I'm going, Sharon, I can't have a conversation, Steve.
It's
I
listen.
start doing this.
Yeah, I start getting hit with
Oh, you just look like White Fang on Soupy Sales.
right, exactly. Hey, listen, brother, I love you. We're gonna have to do this again. I'm gonna send you the link. I'll text it to you, and it'll take you to the thing. And let's, there's some things probably for us to do together, and we should explore those things.
Yes.
I really appreciate the time, Steve, and it's funny that all these years later, with the technology, we're having a conversation deeper and more meaningful than we ever did at the China Club. And that's awesome.
I'm going to leave you with this one China Club thought, my brother.
Go ahead.
Somebody said to me one time, because it always comes up, China Club, no matter who I'm talking to, whatever it is, and somebody said, can anybody verify whether that bathroom actually works?
That was Carmine Rojas.
Carmine Rojas.
Well, not only the bathroom, I'm talking about the manager's office bathroom. Sometimes they
I'm
were
talking about Danny and David's, and Michael's.
right. When you see 4 people coming out of a little cubicle of a toilet, you go, man, what is that? 4 bowls in there? It's like,
And one of them's Rod Stewart. Yeah.
Right.
right.
Rod Stewart and John Waite.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. To be
believe me.
continued.
Yeah, to
And
be
remember,
continued, my
free
brother.
for all Friday. Stop in any
Yeah,
Friday.
I'll have Angus send you the link. You come in any Friday, man. There's 1 million people in there, you'll know, and we get very silly, and it's a lot of fun.
Where's that? Where's that every Friday?
Here, on
Oh,
Friday,
okay.
Anybody who's been on the show can pop in for 5 minutes. I had
Whole
guys
hour.
backstage at the Garden getting ready for Billy Joel. Hey, yeah, just wanted to say hello. It's
Awesome.
really fun.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
you're family. You come in anytime you want.
Yep.
I appreciate it, Stephen. Thank you so much, and thank you, Lori, for helping out and whatever. And I appreciate it. Send me the link to that Friday thing.
You know I will.
And to the Roy Orbison thing, and I would appreciate it. And every time in the future, I'm not going to reach out. I mean, I'll reach out as a friend, but anytime you want to have me back on, it's always a pleasure. This is just the tip of the iceberg of stories.
The iceberg. Well, we're gonna have to start doing categories. But
Well,
man,
you're a great-
yeah, you are. You're a great guest and a great friend, and I'm proud to call you
Pat
friend.
Romano just bought the book too. Boom.
Pat Romano.
Yeah.
Oh, that name sounds very familiar.
Well, he said about 20 years ago, you and your wife and your daughter were in Manny's in Manhattan, and he was there with his little son, and you gave his son encouraging words about playing drums because his son wanted to be a drummer.
You see?
Yep.
You see?
And
It only goes to show you. It always comes back around.
That's
and
right.
he remembered.
Amen,
Yeah.
brother.
Okay.
All right.
That's a great note to end on.
There we
There
go.
you
We'll
go.
go on that one. All right. Thank you, wife, for her patience, and
I will do, Steve.
I will see you soon.
You got it. Enjoy your dinner, and we'll speak to you soon. Good health and success with your project.
Back at you, bro.
See you later, man.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Lori.
I know. I'm back.
Yes. Okay, well.
And you know, the
Sandy
truth of it is,
Gennaro.
I've known Sandy
Great
for
guy.
decades, and I would, even in the China Club, we'd maybe get 5 or 10 minutes to hang out. This is magic for guys like us.
Well, Keith says, Keith Crane, the drummer.
Keith Crane,
And the Vernon Kelton band, Roy Orbison
musical
Experience,
director.
said, and musical director, said he would love to have Sandy come to a show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, listen.
Oh, Laurie Richardson, stars. Thank you, Laurie.
Oh, thank you, Lori. Do we have stars? Do we have them? I know we do.
And
Look at that.
You have a pillow coming your way tomorrow.
Oh, I can't wait for you to receive that.
Yes. And
It's,
she's going to let us know when she gets
Out of all of them, that is certainly one of my all-time favorites. You got the wrapped art, Big Bang. So, it kind of wraps around. It's cool. And
I think Sandy's book is a good read.
Very
Life
good
lessons.
read.
You don't need to be a musician.
yeah, it's not about, I did lines up and down the parking lot with,
No.
No.
It's about being nice to people.
No, it's about the spirit of what we do and the spirit of who we are and the spirit of dinner.
Calzone.
Calzone.
Okay, so tomorrow night is Anything Goes Wednesday.
Anything goes Wednesday. Well, I got to tell you, that sounds pretty good to me.
Yep.
So I guess anything goes, and it's Wednesday. So if I don't see you in the future, I'll see you in the pasture.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Good night, everybody. Good night. What's that? I'm frozen. Did you see that horrible face? I see it.